Al, just send me over a request to join in, and I'll accept it in about 2-3 minutes. Sweet. Right, Al, I think I'll start, but I ain't got many, but I'll start anyway, and hopefully a few more jump on.
Looney,
So now you good, mate?
all good, mate. How are you?
Not too bad, too bad. Hopefully a few more jump on. I forgot the time.
Thought it was 7, didn't you?
Good job you reminded me, mate. Otherwise, I think I would have been waiting until 7.
Taff
Hopefully a few
thought it
more.
was 7 as well. He rang me today and said, "Oh, I'll jump on
Did
at
he?
7." I said, "You might,
Yeah.
but you might miss me."
I'm glad you reminded me, mate. I just said, oh, damn, I completely forgot. I don't know why, because all the rest have been 7, so I don't know why this one was 6:30.
Yeah, I think a few
Marvel.
people will jump back on. Joe Black's in the
Yeah,
house. Good
yeah.
man.
I think a few more, hopefully. Good to see you, mate. Ain't seen you for a while. How's things?
Yeah, all good. All good. Adapting to lifestyle in lockdown, I guess.
Yeah, I think
What about
everyone is,
yourself?
isn't they? Not too bad, mate. Keeping same thing, really. Trying to do as much as I can.
I tell you what,
How's
through
it
this
been?
time though, your missus is the real hero. Let's be honest. Let's not forget that. Working
Yeah,
on the
well,
front line, they're honestly so much respect to
nice one, mate. I'm sure she'll appreciate that. I'm sure she will.
them.
But how's it been in lockdown? What you been doing?
It's been all right to be fair. I've been able to up my training because obviously we're not coaching at Arsenal
Hmm.
as much. So I've got all my evenings back and my Sunday mornings back. We're still keeping up with sort of like the England team. We're doing challenges with the team. So we have to do like a team challenge. The first week was like a 3 kilometer run. Then it was a 1.5 kilometer run. Now we've added a ball into it, so there's like intervals. So we're keeping sort of like the training up, but different. I guess you go to rather like a local park or depending on what the boys got. We're not training on sand because obviously our facilities in Lee Valley. So the boys who live in sort of like the Isle of Wight, Portsmouth, they're able to get on the sand, but us boys in London, we're struggling. So just
No
trying to,
chance.
no chance, yeah. Just
Can't even
trying
get yourself
to,
down to a beach, really, can you?
exactly. There's like a volleyball pitch in Shoreditch that we use, but it's in like a child's playground. Obviously, everything's locked, so you're jumping over to train and feeling bad because people are saying to you, "What are you doing on the sand?" And you're thinking you're meant to be an England player and you can't even train. So yeah, the troubles of it.
So we're going to go through your kind of journey of yours is quite good, isn't it? So how you've kind of that transition of playing, normal football to kind of going into something completely different, which most people probably not even ever seen really.
Yeah,
So yours is quite a good kind of journey. I think the first time I ever kind of discovered beach football was probably when kind of Eric Cantona, I think, started just after he played, didn't he? Just after it
yeah.
was his first time I ever sort of heard of it, sort of thing. But we'll get onto that in a sec. So you're actually, a lot of people probably wouldn't know, you're actually one of the original Kentish Town boys that actually played for the original Kentish Town. So
Yeah.
when I was playing in the youth teams, that you was obviously a good couple of years younger than me, and I sort of had you for a couple of years doing different bits and pieces as well. But what age did you kind of start playing football at?
I think I think I might have been like 6 or 7. I started playing for Tufnell Park. A few of us we had a good team. We ended up sort of doing, I think it was before the leagues really. I only really remember us going to tournaments and
Hmm.
winning them tournaments. So there was good memories. Um,
Yeah.
and then I think about, do you know what it was? It was actually after Tufnell Park, we moved to Ferdinand. Wasn't it called Ferdinand before Kentish Town was ever
There was
ever
a team
existed.
Ferdinand, weren't they? Yeah, and then they come
Yeah,
over to Kentish. I think it was. Yeah, I think
that's
you're
it.
right. Yeah,
That's it. So I
yeah.
was part of the Ferdinand team, and then we moved over to Kentish, and then I think we must have been about under 10, under maybe under 10 playing at Market Road and stuff like that. So yeah, it was good.
Mm. And then you went on to Kentish, who had that was a very kind of successful team, I suppose you had in there, really, weren't it?
We had such a successful team. I think it was between under 12 and under 14. We just jumped into the Harrow League, which was 11 aside. And because of sort of our scores, we didn't have to go into Division 3. We jumped into Division 2 and we won Division 2, Division 1 completely unbeaten, smashed it, no draws, all wins. And then we got into the Premiership, which was then sort of like a different ball game. But then it weren't so much sort of like the teams were a better quality. I just think our mindset was different. We sort of lost the first game, and because we had won for 2 years in a row, we didn't know how to lose.
Mm.
And I think the mentality hit us completely, because if you've gone 2 seasons at that age thinking you're sort of the best team around, beating everyone and smashing teams as well, and then all of a sudden you go into the Premiership and you lose your first game, everyone's looking around thinking what's going on. And we had a few of our boys jump ship to a different team, so we ended up being a sort of like diluted team,
Mm.
which was a shame, because most of the boys who played in that team, and
Yeah, yeah.
we as a top team, I think we could have competed with anyone.
Mm.
And you sort of back that team, and you look back now and think how some of them boys are not professional players.
I was just
I
about to
don't
say,
know.
times have kind of changed it now. I mean, I said this to a few boys a few times that the scouting experts are so different. You know a lot more people nowadays. I suppose in that kind of era where you're always a bit younger, don't really know as many people, do you? So it's kind of hard to have it's like the people just below you, a couple of years below you. There was some talent in that kind of age group, but around Camden of your age was so much talent, but just not being picked up, which was a shame, really. And
And
obviously now,
especially like being at Arsenal as well, it's
yeah,
unfortunate, because if us boys were from Islington obviously had a really good connection with Arsenal because of Steve
mm,
Leonard. And like I talk with Steve Leonard all the time, and he talks about when he brought in sort of like Tommy Cruise and Jack Wilshere and everyone like that. And you think us boys were sort of so close almost to
mm,
being brought into a team, but yet so far away, if that makes sense. But that's how it goes. I think the scouting system now is much better than when we was younger. I would say that less players are now getting missed than when we was younger.
I think it's because there's a lot more around there, isn't there? There's just a
Mm.
lot more. I mean, you go. We'll talk about your kind of coaching stuff and that in a minute. But in yourself working for Arsenal as well, the scouting networks are obviously a lot better nowadays.
But on that, I think I just want to say about like
Yeah,
Kentish
go on.
Town as well, and like not just the scouting's better. I think the whole system in terms of kids of playing football academies is better. I had
Grassroots. Yeah.
yeah, grassroots is much better. I had a conversation the other day, and I'll get onto the coaching side. But when I was at Arsenal, when I got into the Arsenal academy as a coach, I learned so much from a player's point of view. So it made
Mm,
me a better player, because I was working under sort of good coaches with good details. And now I think we're seeing sort of an influx of players coming through because of the detail that now professional coaches are teaching these. When I was younger, and when you was younger, it was all sort of like our dads taking the team and stuff like that. And they give their best. They've done everything they could. They was brilliant, but it wasn't that professional coaching. And little things like checking your shoulder, receiving on your back foot, scanning. I didn't know that. I didn't know that
mm.
until I got to the Arsenal Academy. So if you had said to me, Aaron, check your shoulder, I'd have checked my shoulder. I don't know what it meant. I don't know what I'm looking for.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know
yeah.
what side
Nice.
to check as well. Like the fine detail that makes you so much of a better player. And I actually think I'm so lucky to have, I guess, gone into the coaching route that I did at such a young age, that it still blossomed my football and still had an effect on my football.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely spot on. I will come again. I'll come back to this coaching sort of bit, as I had a kind of a chat with Sam yesterday on the same sort of thing. But I think what you just said is spot on, and I will definitely come back to that bit because I wanted to speak to you about obviously going to the coaching side in a minute. But I think it's interesting what you're kind of doing. How did playing for England, especially a beach football, how did that happen? Was it a club first, and then you go on to to England, or was it straight into kind of that setup?
Yeah, it was complete opposite. It was interesting, really. Like I'll go from sort of like the football into how it happened. I played with you in terms of like the Kentish Town
Mm,
first team. And growing up all the way since till probably I was like 18, 19, I was obviously a left winger, as you know.
Mm.
My dad, I think I was only a left winger because obviously I was left footed, and
Yeah.
my dad wanted me to play there. I guess I had decent quick feet when I was younger. I was never sort of like the fast in terms of pace, but I was always just put into left wing throughout my whole career. And then I had a spell with you boys at Kentish Town. I thought I'd done okay. And then do you remember John took over at Kentish?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I'm still in touch with him. Yeah.
are you? Are you? Yeah. He was.
Yeah.
To be fair, I think I owe a lot to him because he put me as centre midfield, and it's the first time I've ever played centre midfield before, and it's difficult, because like as being a winger as well, you've got this line, this white line that you used to hug in sort of thing, and all of a sudden you're being dropped in the middle, and you're like, what am I doing in here? I
I
don't
know
know where
exactly
I'm
what you're
going.
talking about. Yeah, you get channel vision, don't you?
Yeah.
I think me and you ended up centre midfield actually for one game, or actually for some reason we was both
Yeah,
in
yeah.
centre mid. I can't remember what the outcome was, but it probably worked great with both of me and you in there.
Yeah, exactly. It was completely lost in terms of position. Technically, we must have been all right.
Yeah, yeah.
But
But you just
but
get that
then
channel vision, don't you?
exactly. But then it goes back to my point of like if you was to look at me as a player, I think technically and skillful, I was quite
Definitely,
good. So I
yeah,
probably suited the central midfield position, but I never had that sort of coach or someone to put me in there, which puts me onto my point about now and you must do it at Kentish Town as well.
yeah. Mm,
The rotation of
mm,
positions is so
mm.
important to have them experiences, because my first experience of centre midfield was 19, 20 years old, when really I should have had that experience from 9, 10 as a youth player. So when I go
Definitely.
into centre midfield, I've already blossomed. I know how to play the game. And actually, would my career have gone differently? Yeah, I'd be in a centre midfielder. I don't know. You never know. But
Mm,
that's why it's so important, I think, for children now to rotate and play in different positions. And like I always say, if you're a striker and then you go and play as a centre back, if you go and have a game against a good striker and he might start playing on your blind side and make different runs, when you then go back to be a striker, you think, yeah, I remember that striker who done that against me. I'm going to try that as a striker now to see how that
mm,
works.
mm,
And you pick up
mm,
them different experiences as well, playing in different positions.
mm.
Um, but yeah, so from there, I went to Kentish Town, played centre mid, and I had a really weird season. I went from sort of no one knowing me, or no one really, not even affecting games as a left winger, in a semi-pro environment, to then having every team and every manager after try and almost poach me. And I remember sort of having conversations with John saying, look, of course I want to take this a bit more serious, but I'm now getting offered a little bit of money to play. And then Lee Scott, who was at Bedfont, brought me into Bedfont. And that was, again, played centre midfield and blossomed there. Again, had lots of teams sort of like offering me to go to them. And then I moved on to Wealdstone. At that period of when I was at Wealdstone, I had to make a choice, because if I'm honest, I fell out of love with football. I didn't really enjoy it, because this perception of around the area, my family, they still thought I was going to be a professional footballer. Yet the truth was, at 18, 19, I now had to think, actually, my dream of becoming a professional footballer might not be true. It might not be
Mm,
happening now.
mm.
And then at the time of the pre-season, I then went into doing my level 1 down at Haverstock School. And James Warnock, who works for Arsenal, brought me into Arsenal in the community. So I was really lucky in terms of I'd done my level 1, and then straight away I'd got a job at Arsenal in the community coaching. And it sort of brought my passion back in a different way. And I sort of shifted my mindset from going from a football player into a coach. And I thought, actually, I could really get into this. I really enjoy the coaching side of it. Maybe I could then benefit and be a professional coach. And as I was doing my pre-season for Wealdstone, Gordon Bartlett, who was the manager then, wanted to put me in against when we played. I think the first game was like against Watford, and I just had an opportunity with Arsenal Soccer Schools to fly to Japan and coach for Arsenal in Japan. And I think that sort of shows where my mindset was, is where I actually chose the coaching route instead of actually going to play. And I
Mm.
think that shows where I was with football. So I went to Japan and loved every minute of it in terms of like the experience. I then went on to sort of coaching coaches as well, like a coach educator, and going to different countries like Egypt, Scandinavia. And I loved it. It sort of brought my passion back. And I was quite lucky because the manager at the Arsenal Soccer Schools was also in the same Arsenal team as Ashley Cole. Now, these three people all have connections. So the manager at my Arsenal Soccer Schools, the guy who brought me into the Arsenal Academy, Greg Lincoln, and my England manager at the time, Terry Bowes, all played in the same Arsenal youth team as Ashley Cole. So it was really, I guess it's about sort of like who you know. At the time, Arsenal Academy were looking for sort of like a young coach who I guess had gone through the system but wanted to learn. And then that brought me into the Arsenal Academy at sort of at that time of when I was at Wealdstone as well. So now I've gone from sort of I'm at Wealdstone, but at the chance of being at the Arsenal Academy, and I didn't really care about football. I just cared about coaching now. And as I was going into the Arsenal Academy, I got.
And how old was you then?
I was 20. I was 19, 20. Now as I was sort of first coaching, you got to think now even as a 19 and 20-year-old coach, you're still a really young coach. And like sometimes I was assisting sort of like your under 14s and under 15s. And this was going back to where there wasn't 2 or 3 coaches with an age group. Sometimes you would go in and be like thrown in the deep end. Yep, you're doing this, this age group, under 14s. And I'm only like 5, 6 years older than them. The only thing that really got me out of it's nothing to do really with my coaching ability, it was my playing ability, that you get the respect off of the boys, that you can actually, you're a half decent footballer. And definitely. I think you can definitely sort of like relate to that. And then I got invited down, and it wasn't normally sort of the system of football. You go from club football into international. I actually got invited to an open day in Bournemouth for the England national team of beach football. And I thought, look, why not? Let's just go down there. Let's take a punt. Let's see where it goes. So I went down there, and there was like 4 or 5 teams, and one of the teams was the actual current national team. And I'm playing against them. Obviously, it's sand. Never ever played on sand before. Complete different game. 5-a-side. The pitch is smaller, but I think 5-a-side, I think everyone who knows me would sort of say 5-a-side sort of my game as well. Yeah. This is on sand, so the ball's uneven. You're trying to dribble. You're falling over the ball and everything like that. So it was a nightmare, and I'm getting frustrated. But it's weird because my mentality from when I was a footballer to my mentality as a beach footballer was so different, because the minute I stepped on sand, I looked at everyone and said, this is beach football. This isn't football. So I'm looking at everyone going, I'm not taking it serious. If anything, I sort of devalue the situation, which then puts me much more confident. Whereas in football, I'm going against people who are playing semi-pro, and I'm thinking, these that have had a good career, they might have been pro and now they're down, and giving them probably too much respect and not having the confidence. That sort of like fear of failure, if that makes sense as well. Had in football, which I've not had in beach football, which I think is probably the reason why I've been able to blossom in beach football, because of my fear of failure. I'm not scared. If I fail, it don't make a difference to me. I'll make sure I keep trying and keep trying. So I played the trial. I thought I'd done okay. And if I'm honest, the boys that I was playing against in the current England international team, I was looking at them going, if they're an England international now, I can be an England international. And they were sort of preparing at the time to go to a tournament in Nigeria. And I thought, this is something I want. You got that fire in your belly again about, this is my dream. And regardless, it wasn't a footballer, and I'm not going to earn the money of football. It's something different. And I think we are, especially I would say from this area as well that we've grown up in, there's a fire in our belly, of course, to do well, but to represent your country and just do something in terms of what you've always wanted to do, and put on the England shirt. No amount of money compares to that. I would put on an England shirt for free all day long. And play for my country regardless of the money situation, if that makes sense. So every time I'm able to put on that England shirt, I guess I'm so grateful, and I'm still so hungry that I'm able to do my dream that I've always wanted to do since I was a kid, playing around the flats with everyone, and looking at probably some of the other boys who were so talented as well, who are now not playing football at all, and I'm still doing it as a profession as well.
What's the so take us through some of the rules of beach football, because obviously a lot of people won't know. So is it as you say, it's 5-a-side, is it?
It's 5-a-side. It's 3 periods of 12 minutes instead of doing 2 halves. You have the pitch is split up within like 9 meters, so you have a halfway line, but the goalkeeper, instead of having like an 18 yard line or an 18 yard box, you have a 9 meter line. And the 9 meter line, when you're in your area, you're only allowed the ball in your own area for 4 seconds, which then kicks in with the intensity. So basically it means that it's quite a quick game. The average goals of games are over 10 goals. So you can imagine how many goals are going in, sort of thing. And then you look back at some of the goals that have scored in sort of like football, 11-a-side football. You've got sort of like your Rooney's goal against Man City, your Ibra goal against England, your Gareth Bale goal in the Champions League, for example, the overhead kicks. They get scored 4 or
On
5
a regular.
times in a game. Yeah. And the only, like, I'll link it back to coaching as well and link it back to the players, because I think that's important. And the one thing I think is really important about beach football is that it gives you a different talent. And especially, like, the one thing I believe in English football as well is you look at our lower leagues in terms of like our Championship, League One, League Two, semi-pro. It's not pretty. Like, let's be honest, our football is not always pretty. Now, it allows you to be aerially comfortable with the ball on your chest, comfortable with the ball on your thigh, comfortable with the ball on your feet, but juggling as well, not just on the floor, in the air. And a lot of the ball is played in the air in sort of like semi-pro, lower leagues. And I think if you've had an experience in beach football, maybe indoor football or futsal and football, and you combine all of that, you get a much better complete football player, not just suited for your Premier League, suited